We're going to be looking at some of the top waiver wire running backs for week 14. And this is one of the most interesting waiver wires we've had this season because we got hit with some injuries last week, especially at the running back position. So you're going to need to follow this video from the beginning to the end so you know about these running backs. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with the finger on the phone, click it with the mouse on the computer because I'm here to help you with your research. We deep dive the waiver wire almost every day. We help you set your lineup, and I'm going to be there for you when it comes to your research for your drafts next year. And if you miss out hitting that subscribe button, I may not be there for you. Hit that button, stop missing out. But today we're going to be looking at 10 running backs to pluck off the waiver wire for week 14, and we're going to start things off with Ezekiel Elliott. Rhamondre Stevenson had an injury. He's going to be out for a little bit. That's what the news reports are saying. And Ezekiel Elliott saw an instant bump in touches and snaps, as we knew would happen. If something would happen to Rhamondre Stevenson, we've been saying this all along. He's been one of the top cuffs here due to him being so reliable. You know he's stepping in, being the lead back because he's good in the pass blocking department. He's good catching the ball in the backfield. He's good between the tackles. He's going to run the plays the way they're supposed to be ran. Had a 64.7 opportunity share. That's going to increase from that because Stevenson was in the game. That was from last week, and 21 touches. Look for him to push 20 touches a game. There's no reason for them to need to preserve Ezekiel Elliott. He's an older running back who's lost a lot of juice. He's on a short contract. Might as well run him into the ground and milk him for what he's worth. Kenneth Gainwell. DeAndre Swift had an injury in the last game. They're saying it's not serious, so a good chance that Swift is back. However, if you need a handcuff, he's a good one to get because the injury history with DeAndre Swift is grand. The Eagles' offense is grand. You're going to want the lead back of the Eagles because they are really moving the chains every single week. They're always in good game scripts. If something happens to DeAndre Swift, you're going to want Kenneth Gainwell. Why not pluck him now if you got a spot to see what happens, especially if you need a running back to stash? Keaton Mitchell still on waivers in a lot of leagues. In the last 4 games that he played, he was the RB20. 34 touches in 4 games, second behind Gus Edwards on the team, 10 touches per game. He is the Jameson Williams, the Will Fuller, the Rashid Shaheed of running backs, where any given Sunday, he can go off. He's going to be a head scratcher on every single matchup because the matchup doesn't matter. It's just what happens on that one touch where the defense lays down in front of him and gives him open grass because he can score on any given play. Anywhere on the field, he's that fast, he's that explosive, plus the Ravens are coming out of a bye. NFL teams are notorious of letting their rookies run after the bye week, whether it's a wide receiver, running back. There's a higher hit rate after the bye week for some of these rookies. We could see him get more touches and more opportunities. He saw a lot of opportunities compared to other running backs against the Chargers. After the bye week might lead to something more with Keaton Mitchell. If anything, he's a stash home run threat on the back end of your roster, and we've been talking about him all season long. Antonio Gibson. Brian Robinson suffered a hamstring injury last week. Antonio Gibson is going to get more opportunities if that hamstring lingers. The question about this is we got to bye this week for the Commanders, so this is going to give Brian Robinson some time to get right. However, if he's not getting right, then you're going to want to be looking at Antonio Gibson. You may want to get him now just in case because he can be used heavily in the passing game. He's seeing 5 targets per game, and that's with him sharing the backfield. He's very good in the passing game, has elite size-adjusted athleticism. If he's getting touches, he's getting opportunities. He does have the gusto to go boom in your lineup. Derrick Henry's not in the concussion protocol right now. That's the latest news. But prior to that, Tyjae Spears was the man on the waiver wire. And he still might be because he's an elite handcuff. Because now we got that taste of what the media, what Twitter, what social media, what people in your league feels about Tyjae Spears. If Derrick Henry goes out, we also saw the touches here. He saw 20 touches with Derrick Henry out of the lineup. Also, he played well against the Colts. 75 rushing yards, 4 balls caught, 13 yards. getting used in the passing game. He's been seeing a lot of snaps all season, rivaling Derrick Henry, just not in the touch department. He would spike in workload if something happens to Derrick Henry, or if he goes back into concussion protocol, or if anything happens to Derrick Henry. You're going to see an increase in workload with Tyjae Spears, an elite handcuff right now in fantasy football. Chase Brown is starting to cuff. He's starting to cuff. We saw a taste of this a little bit last night, because he was getting worked into the game plan there with Joe Mixon. Only led to 9 touches, but this is something to monitor. I would not pick him up off waivers, off a whim, unless I'm in a super deep league. But if I need a stash, if I need to pick somebody up for cheap after waivers have ran, then I might be looking at Chase Brown here, because Chase Brown has some upside here. He's a late round pick, but he was super productive at Illinois, can run it between the tackles, can be used in the passing game, had a good come up during Senior Bowl week. This is another one of those running back prospects who are just under the radar that, given the opportunity, could blossom, but we don't know until he gets that opportunity. But that may never happen too. Rashan Johnson's always going to be there on waivers, it feels like. He's always going to be there. We saw an increase in workload in week 12, led to him seeing 10 carries for 35 yards, but saw 5 targets, catching all 5 of those for 40 yards. So his work in the passing game allows him to be fantasy relevant. We got to watch D'Onta Foreman, though, for the long-term viability of Johnson, because D'Onta Foreman has been the Johnson killer. So that being said, Johnson's a good speculation piece off the waiver wire for cheap, but temper your expectations. Chandler's another handcuff 1B running back that you can have as a stash, especially if something happens to Alexander Madison. He's just a home run hitter with some speed. If he sees daylight, if he sees a crack in the line, he could house it. That could be huge for him. He's also seen a fair amount of touches in his last few matchups. Not a must-get running back, but a running back that needs to be on your radar just in case you need to pick up a stash back for these last few weeks. DJ Dallas and Kenny McIntosh, because we're watching Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. They've been cropping up on the injury report. Zach Charbonnet got hurt in the last game. That being said, odds are saying one of these running backs are going to come back sooner than later. So you do not want to go in on any of these running backs unless you're hurting. And you also need to pay attention to the news. Sounding alarm to pay attention to the news. But if you need to speculate, I'm in a 14-team league. I'm in a 16-team league. I'm in a deeper league. All the running backs are stashed, and I'm hurting. And I'm hurting bad. I need to pick up 2 or 3 running backs this week. That's how bad I'm hurting. Then you may want to think about this. You may want to get ahead of this. And if it doesn't come to fruition, you just drop. Maybe that's something you need to do, but that's on you and your situation. Zamir White, another cheap handcuff here. Jacobs is getting an 82.2% opportunity share. They are not going to change their identity so much if Jacobs goes out that they're not using the running backs anymore. Zamir White will get opportunity if Jacobs goes down. Plus, they want to see what they have in him. He's good between the tackles, high-end size, adjusted athleticism, and he's cheap. He's free off the waiver wire. If I have Josh Jacobs, I'm probably looking to get him. Amir Abdullah is going to get some touches as well. But Zamir White is a cheap handcuff running back that you can get that does have league-winning upside if something happens to Josh Jacobs. But those are 10 running backs that we're looking to get off waivers or looking to watch on the waiver wire during this week, maybe into next week. We technically talked about 11, but those are 10. Let me know who you're trying to get off waivers this week in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.